David.
Tell you what, I'll unmute myself, and then that might make life a little bit easier. If you want to just keep your screen up, Dawn, that'll be absolutely fine.
Okay.
And just start with that tab you're on there, the accreditation one will be great.
Okay.
Okay, so as you're all probably aware, the whole remit of the organisation when it was established way back in 2004 was to provide accreditation to coaches, mentors and training providers. At the time it was established, mentoring wasn't really sort of like a big feature, and that became more and more prevalent sort of like as the years went on. And the one key thing about accreditation is it's one step above a certification. So if you work on a principle of the example that we often choose, if you go to a college or a university and you gain a qualification, then that university or college has to be accredited in order to be able to provide that accreditation, which is why some colleges will only go up to, in the UK, A level, others will go up to degree, and so on and so on and so forth. So our accreditation model is based around some work that Oxford Brookes University did, and it's specifically Oxford Brookes coaching and mentoring department within their university. And they wrote an article about capability versus competence. And I was interested in the article, and to cut a very long and complicated story short, I contacted Brookes University. I asked if the information was copyright or if it was available for anybody to use. They said the latter. They also said that they were putting together a pack that people could take away and utilize. So we waited for that. We looked at their pack. We decided that we could improve it, and we tweaked it. And what you see in front of you is the model that we have. And the 4 interlocking circles are the most important aspect of the accreditation process. Because what we identified was that one of the problems with competency models in particular is that they are quite static, and in order to make them dynamic, you have to keep revisiting them and revisiting them and revisiting them. And the capability approach identifies a way which is much more holistic and allows us to look at the professionalism and the capability across a number of different areas. And the 4 areas that we look at are underpinning knowledge and understanding. So basically, what have you done? What do you know? What do you understand by what you know? And how do you apply theory into practice? We have skills and behaviors, and skills and behaviors are looked at through skills assessment for all levels of accreditation, which I'll come on to. And at an interview stage, more so for senior master and fellow level, depending upon which route you come through. Everybody is required to undergo a reflective practice, and reflective practice is looking at how you consider the work that you've done and how you learn from that. So everybody who goes through a skills assessment is required then to undertake a personal reflection afterwards. That personal reflection moves into developing capability, because that is how you take your learning plan and apply it into such things as CPD. And that is your commitment to development. So for example, during the interview stage, some of the questions that we might investigate would be, what your understanding of coaching is, what is your commitment to your own personal development, how do you map your own CPD, what do you understand by the differences between coaching, mentoring, counselling, psychotherapy, and all of those sorts of areas in order to understand and be able to accurately measure your capability in a certain area. And in doing that, what we end up with is a much more comprehensive, a much more accurate reflection of the people that we accredit during the process. And it works really, really well. Okay, so if we have a look then at why accreditation matters, the simple answer to that is it just does. So fundamentally it matters. And it matters for a number of reasons. More and more, certainly in the corporate world, people are starting to ask the questions about, right, well, what qualifications do you have? are you accredited? What does that actually mean? And one of our remits, in fact, so like the main remit, is building awareness about the importance of accreditation right across the sort of like the public sphere. And more members of the public are visiting our website, they're checking out the directories, and then they're coming back to us in some cases and asking us, is this training provider or is this coach actually accredited with you? So they're starting to become more and more in tune with the importance of having an accreditation. The two examples we use, you wouldn't want to fly in a plane with somebody who only watched Flight Simulator, and you certainly wouldn't want to go into surgery with somebody who'd read Surgery for Dummies. There's an importance to it, and if you're going to put your life in the hands of somebody who can do a lot of good, but equally if they do the wrong thing in the wrong way, it can do an awful lot of damage, then people need to be accredited. The other aspect of why accreditation matters is it's an ability to stand up and say, yeah, I'm professionally qualified, I'm trained, I've also been accredited, I've gone through a process whereby my capability has been examined, and only if I reach the required mark, the required standard, will I have been awarded that accreditation. And for those of you who've been accredited and for those of you who are thinking about it, the standards that we set, we stick to. So if you don't reach the required standard, you don't pass. And we do have a number of people who have not achieved the required pass mark, and we've gone back to them and we've supported them in that development. We've provided them with feedback, we've provided them with CPD opportunities, and then we've encouraged them to come back and retake the assessment at the end of that. The ones who have come back, and the difference between their first assessment and the second assessment is significantly different. And in all cases, everyone has said that they have learned from that process. So in terms of the different types of accreditation we have, if we go into individual, Dawn, please. Thank you. In terms of individual accreditation, we have 4 different levels. We have a practitioner level, senior level, master level, and fellow level. The boxes that you see there will be populated. This is part of the updating of the website. And what we have done with the approach to the new website is try to simplify the information so that when people look at the requirements, they understand exactly what it is that they need to have in order to progress, what evidence you need to provide us, what capability you need to demonstrate to us, and what the pass marks are as well. Generally speaking, practitioner level is entry level, 60 hours, senior 750 hours of actual practice, master 1500, and fellow 2500. And we encourage everybody to progress from whatever level you come in at onto the next level. Again, support is available through that, through both the education process, through CPD, through contacting either Dawn or myself, so that we can offer some guidance if necessary. And the whole process is designed to encourage you to recognize your own achievement. It's very easy for us to say, oh yes, you've achieved that mark, thank you very much, have a nice day. It's more than that. When we say to you that you've passed and you've achieved your accreditation at whatever level, that means that you have demonstrated something that other people might not be able to do that are in a similar position. So we always encourage you to recognize and promote yourself as an accredited coach. Just scroll down a little bit, Dawn, if you could, please. Thank you. We've also introduced a VIP, a very important pensioners aspect. So anybody who has, as we've said there, aged in both years and wisdom, and has achieved pensionable age, will be entitled to a discount, 50% discount, and that is done via the coupon code. And then below that, you have the information with regards to the different boxes and in order to apply, you literally view the criteria and apply. Accredited route, as most of you will be aware, if you've trained with one of our accredited training providers, you get a discounted application fee. For those of you who have not trained with one of our training providers, then you would come through the non-accredited route. It's a slightly different fee, and in some cases there are some additional pieces of evidence to provide as well. Annual renewal is the same for all of the individual levels. If you could go on to course accreditation, Dawn. Thank you. We've recently revised course accreditation as well. We have changed the wording. The reason that we've changed the wording was that we originally had accredited workshop, and we had accredited short course, and we had accredited training course as some of the titles. And as a number of people pointed out, well, surely a short course is a workshop, and surely a workshop is a short course, and surely all of them are accredited training course. And we got into that the tangled bit of spaghetti. So what we decided to do was to alter the wording so that it was more reflective of progression, in the same way that individual accreditation moves from practitioner to senior to master to fellow, that the wording on the training courses moved in a similar way. So at the equivalent of level 3, we have accredited short training course. Then at level 4, we have accredited foundation training course. At level 5, cue to scroll. Thank you. At level 5, we have intermediate. Level 6, we have an advanced training program, and level 7 is now retitled as accredited extensive training program. I'm going to let Dawn in a little while talk to you about accredited professional development, which is something that we have added. For the course accreditations, the process is much the same. Dawn and I will have an initial interview and conversation once somebody has filled out an application form. During the conversation, we'll talk about what evidence is required, which tends to be things from a course perspective of the course criteria, testimonials if the course has already been run, evidence of assessments, and so on and so forth, depending upon the level of the course. Similarly, with individual accreditation, the higher the level of the course, the more information we're going to require. We've also looked at accreditation for corporates. We were working with one organisation until recently, and we're hoping to work with them again. They are in the process of updating and amending their internal mentoring program. Dawn, did you want to mention APD at this point?
Yes, definitely. This is a very exciting development, because I, like you, have probably got material that you might like to have accredited. Having talked to a lot of practitioners, they might run a workshop or a weekend event, or even just a one-day specialist course on something, and mine just happens to be on coaching nutrition. So the development of the Accredited Professional Development APD course is really suitable for people like you and me. It's not just for the big coach training providers who run courses. So just bear in mind, if you have an offering that you want to raise the profile of it and have it accredited because you're accredited, it's something that you might want to consider as well. So the application form is just a flat fee of £3.90 with an annual renewal fee of £90 a year. So that's something that we've brought in for the practitioners that I know has been well received so far.
The other aspect I would add about course accreditation is the simple question about, why should you get your course accredited? And the reason for that is simply, when you have members of the paying public coming to you and they know that your course is accredited, and one of the requirements is that all courses are delivered by accredited facilitators, then they have the confidence that not only the course but the facilitator themselves excuse me, has the necessary skills and ability not only to deliver the program, but to be able to answer the relevant questions that people might ask as part of the program. If you can just highlight accreditation again at the top, Dawn, please.
Yeah.
And then I'll just make sure I haven't missed anything. Okay, so that generally covers accreditation. The process is relatively straightforward. One of the things that I would say is that it is completely driven time-wise by anybody who applies. We will encourage and we will support, but we are not here to provide 24-hour nudging, although it does feel like that sometimes. So we have 2 quotes that we recommend to people. One of them is from Stephen Covey, which is begin with the end in mind. And the other one is John Cotter's, always create a sense of urgency. And if you treat your accreditation or your re-accreditation or your upgrade in exactly the same way that you would if you were working with a client and their expectations and your expectations of what they were saying that they were going to do around commitment, determination, and courage, then you will get through the process relatively quickly. Once we've got all of the information in, it's a relatively quick process, anything from 1 day up to 5 days, depending upon who's in front of you, really. So very similar to Dawn. If anybody has any questions, then I'm happy to answer.
I have a question. I'll just jump in. There's 2 things. First out, the site looks amazing, and I just love the way it's all set out.
Thank you.
In terms of the different sections of like practitioner, senior, master, fellow, obviously when someone comes on, the master and the fellow are going to be like, wow, that's awesome. I want a master and a fellow. So how are you going to add credence, I guess, to someone who's just a practitioner? Like, how will you make them appear as good as they are?
Okay. When people go through the accreditation process, we have quite a detailed feedback mechanism. So if at practitioner level they have their assessment, they'll be provided with their feedback, which will identify all of the things that they need to develop. The second stage of that, so like during the feedback process, is very much about encouraging them to maintain their CPD. So everybody who is accredited, excuse me, has to maintain 30 hours a year per rolling year of CPD. So they continue to do that. They continue to keep a coaching log. And through a combination of that and keeping in touch with us, then the next stage would be to upgrade to senior. And then the next part of that would be to upgrade to master. So the difference, or the application difference between the 2 is really from practitioner to senior, you need to have more training, so more CPD, so you might need to attend another course, and you need to have more evidence of actual experience as a coach. So if somebody then applies for their senior and they go through the process, it'll be slightly different because there'll be an interview stage at that point as well. Then at the end of that, they will equally receive feedback from their interview. And feedback is never just, you answered that well. Feedback will always include, that was a really good answer. Here is some additional information you might want. Here is something else that you might want to consider. Here is something else that you can use to develop your skills. And it's exactly the same, so like at the actual live coaching call as well. The pass mark changes. So at practitioner it's 70%, at senior it's 75%, master is 80%, and fellow is 85%. So there is a requirement to demonstrate more capability. At fellow level is more than often by invitation only. There are some people who have applied, that was more so in the past, but more lately, either Dawn or I or Nikki or Adele, might identify somebody and say, look, that person really wants to be invited to become a fellow. The difference between a fellow and a master is simply that at fellow level, there is an expectation that you're doing something above and beyond within the coaching or the mentoring or the training course or like arena. So you're doing something for the community, and that might be running courses, it might be writing books, it might be doing quite a lot of pro bono work, you might be working for a charity, the list is endless, but it's just something that is a little bit more than I've got the number of hours and I've got that amount of training. Because one of the things that we found in the past is that people can come to us and they can be educated to PhD level, but when you actually sit people down and say, right, coach somebody, and you're going to be assessed on that coaching, they tend to be, not in all cases, but in some cases, they tend not to be able to demonstrate, as much as what the, what the paper qualification would outline. So for us, it's very much about, demonstrate what you can do. The paper bit is great, but it's, how do you transfer that theory into action? Now, one of the things that I really want to do, and it's on the agenda for moving forward, is as well as the business course that Nikki will talk about, I want to introduce, and I'm talking loosely here because I haven't quite got my head around how it would work, but I want to introduce something where people can, for example, somebody's a practitioner, they want to progress, who can support them? I want to be able to set something up whereby people can contact other people within the IAPC&M who are willing to give their time as potentially coach mentors to help those people either develop their skills or their training, not necessarily the business bit, because the business of coaching does that, but who can maybe act as just a coach for them or a mentor who can help them further develop their skills. And if we can set something up like that, and a number of other organizations have such schemes, and I know that because I'm sort of like a mentor on both of them, is that it gives people an additional route to further develop what they're doing. And that might be, it might not be talking to somebody about their coaching, because that links into the Association of Coaching Supervisors. But if it's working with somebody to gain additional skills, or just chat to somebody about, I've heard about brain-based coaching, for example, who could I talk to? I've heard about neuroscience is the new, the new word on the block. What do you know about that? What book should I be reading? We want to encompass all of that as part of the development options for people. And the research library that we're putting together, again, is about giving people access to as much information as we can in order to help people develop, but also help them to then work with their clients.
Can I add something in? Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Nikki.
I think I think part of what Henry's question raises is when members of the public come to the website and go to the directory to seek a coach. If I've understood Henry correctly, it was the question around if somebody is looking for a coach and they go, oh, I want to work with a fellow because that's the best, or that's the cream of the crop. So how do the practitioners get found in the directory? And I think maybe, I don't know if Dawn, you want to say something about how people make their profile look as attractive as it can, regardless of your accreditation level, making sure that your profile is welcoming and is appealing to the type of clients that coaches and mentors want to work with, so that you connect with the right potential clients regardless of your level of accreditation. Because some clients, yes, they might want to, they might have a perception around practitioner, senior, etc. But actually, it's, as we all know, it's much more important about finding the right coach who can get you the right results. So I don't know, Dawn, if you want to just mention something about those directory profiles, if that's appropriate.
Yeah. I was kind of going to say exactly the same thing, so thank you, Nikki. Because yes, Henry, you're right. You know, if you're starting out as a practitioner, how do you stand out when your competition potentially is senior coaches, master coaches, and so on? But you also have to remember that there are enough coaches out there for the clients, and not every client wants a senior or a master or can even afford one. So Nikki's absolutely right. Create the best possible profile, and I will help you do that. And it's to do with having your a photograph, your logo, as much information as possible, and making yourself accessible, because at the end of the day, people buy people. And actually the support material that we put together for you in terms of the marketing and the PR is exactly the same, whether you're a practitioner or a master. You get exactly the same level of marketing, certificates, logos, etc. They just might have different words on. So
Okay.
Support is the same. And I can see you've started walking off for your interview already. So hopefully
I am. I just wanted to ask just one more little thing. So I've done a lot of pro bono work, and I'm sort of pushing on 300 hours now. Wait, I need to double check that. So I know that in the ICF they require paid coaching sessions to move on to accreditation. How does that work with you guys?
It's interesting that you raise that question, because one of the things that we've been considering, and we have considered a lot in the past, is that a certain percentage of your coaching practice should be billable. And more, a number of people have approached us and said, yeah, much the same. You know, a lot of it's pro bono, or I work in a charity, or I'm in an organization, so technically I'm being paid, but yeah, really I'm not. And the simple answer that we've come up with is, you know, it doesn't matter. You know, what matters is how good a coach you are.
Yeah.
So what you will find on the new structure is that we've removed the requirement to have a certain percentage of billable hours, and focused on, right, how many hours of coaching do you actually have? Because at the end of the day, you know, who are we to say that you're a better coach when you get paid for it than when you don't? You know, it's highly subjective. We will know how good you are as a coach when you go through the capability process.
Okay, that's hugely encouraging. Thank you, David.
And the next section, Henry, I know that you're walking, so but I will send you a recording afterwards, is we're handing over to Nikki, who's going to explain the business support, because we've created this program particularly aimed at practitioners who may well qualify as great coaches but lack the business acumen and skills to turn what they want to do into a practice. So this next section, possibly arguably for some people, is the most important. So over to you, Nikki, please.
Can I ask a question before, please?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Hi, it's Pauline from Lebanon.
Hello, Pauline.
Hi, I just have a small question, because in Lebanon and in the region, it's the ICF who's very well known, and the IAPC&M, I came to know about it from Noble Manhattan. And past, and mainly in the Middle East, they know about ICF. Is there any plan to give more visibility to IAPC&M in the region? Because our coaches that will graduate from Noble Manhattan will be members of this. So we will have a pool of coaches who will be part of your network mainly. It's their choice in the end if they want to be ICF as well or not, but they have the possibility of going immediately with IAPC&M. So are there any plans for the Middle East? How is it going to move on now that we have students in the region?
Yes, the answer is yes. We've got lots of plans to support all our countries, because we've got practitioner members in all the countries over Europe, and also a lot in Asia. So we're working very hard on raising the profile of our practitioners and what we offer coaches who want to become professionally accredited. And that's why we've teamed up with Social Buzzing to do that work for us. And, you know, we have things in the pipeline like coaching awards, perhaps a live conference as opposed to a virtual, but those are all plans for the future.
Okay, because it's very important, because now you'll be having a pool in the region as well, and we need to raise awareness for them.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. And we will be working very closely with people like you, Pauline, who are newly becoming established in an area and need more PR support. Definitely that help is there for you. So for instance, when a training provider set up in Sri Lanka, we did conference calls, we attended their introduction days and evenings by Zoom, and that was how we were able to support them from a distance. So we're open to all ideas and suggestions to help you either develop your practice or your training business.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anybody else with a question about accreditation before we move over to Nikki, please?
Yes, please, Dawn, I have.
Hello, Anne.
Hi. I noticed as we went through there, although I didn't recognise that David actually said it, that the accreditation now lasts for 3 years.
Yes.
And I can understand the rationale behind that. I've read the piece on the screen and so on, but that would be where I am, that it's well over 3 years since I was accredited. So obviously I'd need to go through a process. And presumably all the information, the detail about that is on the site somewhere?
Yes, everybody started from a clean sheet last August. So
okay.
Yes, everybody's 3 years started from last August, so the earliest is going to be 2021. So, and you'll have plenty of notice of what it entails. So I'm glad you agree with it, because I think it's quite important not to just carte blanche give somebody a certificate, and then whether it's a training provider, not check whether they're adding new material or new trainers that we don't know anything about. And likewise with the coaches, you know, we can get a little bit familiar and have bad habits like we do when we're driving. So periodically just having that little reassessment keeps us focused on doing the best and maintaining those industry standards.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, we're talking 3 years hence, so
no, I don't need to panic.
no, not at all.
And just I'll mute myself again in a minute, but just again would like to say, as Henry did, the site looks fantastic. You know, I'm really impressed with what you guys have done over the last.
Good. Thank you. Well, Paul's done an amazing job in translating our vision and mission to have a site that was more engaging. And he knows it's a work in progress, you know, because we're always addressing feedback, because finally we seem to be in a position where people are talking to us more. You know, last year we would never have dreamt of having 40 people wanting to come on a conference call. So I think we're all working in the same sort of direction with the same vision and mission, and finally we're all sharing that and feeling proud to be ambassadors not only of the organisation but of the industry, and pulling together, and it shows and things like this. So thank you for that feedback.
Thank you.
Dawn, I've just got a quick question.
Yes, please.
In terms of the every year you need to have the 30 hours CPD.
Yeah.
So I'm chartered with the Institute of Personal Development. And is it required that because you can get lots of courses but they don't have the logo, so in order to achieve the 30 hours, would it have to be a course that specifically says these are counted towards your CPD, or not?
Not at all. We're all grown-ups. We trust you. You know, you might do some self-study through listening to Tony Robbins' CDs. You read Stephen Covey book, you attend a course, anything at all that you deem as putting aside an investment time-wise that you are developing yourself, you put down on your CPD form. If there was something questionable, obviously we'd come back to you. But no, we don't need a CPD stamp on it, on each thing that you do.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, please?